you ready?
You're watching the M2J2 Project, and this is Daikai Juma.
What up, Crane Grape Nation? Hang on a second, I gotta take this call real quick.
Hey, McHale.
Hello? Oh, hi, Kanye West.
Yeah, I was wondering if you wanted to catch a movie.
What's that? You want to know what the next Kaiju Month review video is? Oh, well, it's Cloverfield from 2007, directed by Matt Reeves.
That's nice.
What? What do you mean that's not a Kaiju movie, Kanye West? What do you mean Kaiju movies have to be made in Japan?
What are you talking about?
You
McHale.
hung up on me.
McHale.
It's too late now, I already wrote the video. I don't know how many people could honestly say this, but Cloverfield is actually a movie that I have really fond childhood memories of. I can tell you exactly where I was when I first heard about this movie. It was a really humid summer night in 2007, and I was watching Friday Night SmackDown on the CW when I saw this. I mean, holy shit, did you just see that? See that? What could have done that? Suffice it to say, my interest was piqued. I was really, really interested in learning what exactly this Cloverfield movie was all about. But I actually didn't get around to seeing Cloverfield until years later. When I began using the internet, Cloverfield's ARG, or alternate reality game for those not in the know with the Reddit lingo, was one of the first rabbit holes that I went down. I was around 9 or 10 years old, and I remember watching analysis videos of the movie itself and other things from the ARG. YouTubers like Eric with No K, who now goes by pretty much It, come to mind. This is just a really nostalgic time period for me, and Cloverfield was one of my main interests back then, so I really wanted to review it, less so because it's Kaiju Month and more so because I think this fits the theme, and it's a movie from my childhood that I just really, really love, and I want to talk about it. For the sake of brevity, I'm going to be talking about the first Cloverfield film, more or less as a standalone movie. There are 2 sequels, I guess, but we can get into them a little bit at the end. It kind of complicates things. They're not follow-up films in a narrative sense to Cloverfield. So the plot of Cloverfield involves some asshole from New York and his annoying brother, played by T.J. Miller. They're filming some shitty home movie for T.J. Miller's brother, whose name is Rob, when they inadvertently capture a giant monster attacking New York City. This is a found footage movie. We follow the characters from a first-person point of view, and with that said, this movie does have a lot of common issues you will find in found footage movies. The dialogue is either really clunky or just very boring ad-lib dialogue. There's a lot of weird camera angles. The lighting is a bit bad. The pacing's strange. You know the drill. Actually, for what this movie is, I think it is really interesting to see the human side of the scenario. I know last week I criticized Godzilla Planet of the Monsters for doing exactly this, but hear me out, because Cloverfield is presented in an entirely different context than something like Godzilla Planet of the Monsters. Cloverfield's utilization of the first-person human perspective is really effective in what it's trying to accomplish. This is a lower-budget movie, and by focusing on this perspective, you really get to tell a story that feels much bigger than the budget would usually allow. We don't see the monster a lot, but that's okay because we see what it's doing to people, is what I'm trying to say. We actually see a character's head explode behind a curtain from the parasites that fall off the back of the Cloverfield monster. The parasites are a really cool little xenomorph minion type thing. I always thought they were really cool as a kid. They kind of remind me of the Flood from the Halo series. Let's talk about the design of the Cloverfield monster himself. This guy was a hot commodity a couple years back, and I remember a lot of people saying they wanted to see a Cloverfield versus Godzilla film, which from a directing standpoint, I don't even know where the fuck to begin with that. But he has a really unique design. He looks very, very otherworldly, which we'll get into a little bit later. I like that this is a design that could not be pulled off by a person in a rubber suit. I think that that's a statement to show where the genre was at the point that this movie released. I think that that is also really neat. This could not be a guy in a rubber suit. Some of the concept art for this movie had some more traditional looking monsters, like this one that you're seeing right now. This is a bipedal whale looking design. He's a little bit more traditional, a little bit guy in a rubber suit, but let's be real, this would look fucking ridiculous in this movie. The supposed backstory for the Cloverfield monster is that this was some prehistoric creature sleeping in the ocean that was awakened by the drilling of an oil pipeline. I say supposedly because as we get to talking about the sequels a little bit later on in the video, that may or may not be the case. The sequels serve to further complicate the timeline of the original movie, which is really saying something because the ARG also does a pretty fucking great job of screwing up the timeline. So let's talk about the buzz around this movie. The Cloverfield franchise has gained a reputation for just having the most cryptic fucking advertising ever. I don't know if you guys remember a couple years back when the third one released and the trailer premiered at the Super Bowl, and then by the end of the Super Bowl, the movie was out on Netflix. I assume Cloverfield 4 will just be J.J. Abrams coming to your house and watching the movie with you, right? The ARG, in terms of how it served this movie, are pretty effective, honestly. It gives you a lot of really interesting background information on the characters and actually ties into 10 Cloverfield Lane a little bit, but if you're looking for a full Cloverfield analysis on the ARGs, I'm sorry, I don't have the time to do that. There are some really great analysis videos on YouTube that you can check out, and I'm sure would do a lot better job at explaining it than I would. But okay, let's get into the sequels. Technically, there are 3 Cloverfield films. This film, 2016's 10 Cloverfield Lane, which is excellent by the way, and 2018's not so excellent, The Cloverfield Paradox. There is a very strong rumor that the movie Overlord from a few years ago was intended to be a 4th Cloverfield film, but due to the weak reception of the Cloverfield Paradox, this didn't end up happening. I don't know if there are any references to anything from Cloverfield within the finished version of Overlord. I've never seen this movie. I've heard it's good. So it's disappointing to hear that this was originally supposed to be a Cloverfield movie and didn't end up happening. But as I said, that these sequels serve to complicate the original film's timeline. And what I mean by that is 10 Cloverfield Lane really doesn't add to it at all. It implies that it exists in the same universe as the first film and introduces an alien race to the story, which I thought was pretty interesting, but I don't really get how that ties in with the monster, if it does at all. And then we go to the third film, the Cloverfield Paradox, which frankly shits the bed on the entire fucking Cloverfield franchise. This is really where it was supposed to pick up and become something that's tangible. I understand that there is a running narrative between these 3 films, with, if in theme, if not anything else. And it fails so miserably on giving us something that's cryptic and can makes us feel as uneasy as the first 2 films did. Said shitting the bed comes from the scene in the movie, which if you've seen it, you already know which scene I'm talking about. But in this movie, the Cloverfield monster comes back. And not only that, it's the size of fucking Godzilla Earth. Like, it's too big. That's what your mom said last night. Anyway, so we got Cloverfield Godzilla Earth up in the house now. I actually learned in doing research this, there is a 4th Cloverfield film being planned that is a direct sequel to this first film, but it will not include found footage elements. So very interesting to hear how that's going to turn out. As I understand it, J.J. Abrams and Matt Reeves are involved in this, but I don't know to what extent. Overall, I would recommend the first Cloverfield movie, but maybe stay away from the third one. Overall, I recommend the first Cloverfield film. It hits a lot of the same beats as a lot of other found footage films, but I think it has a lot of personality that really makes it stand on its own 2 legs, and it has a really interesting mystery around it that you get to watch unfold as the characters do, which I think is really neat. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't realize how much this movie meant to me until I started writing this video. I don't really think about Cloverfield much anymore or give it that much of my time, which is unfortunate because I really do genuinely enjoy this movie quite a bit, as if I haven't said that enough in this video. I feel like around this time is when movies were really starting to capture my imagination, around 2007, 2008, 2009. Revenge of the Sith had just come out a few years earlier, and that's where my interest in movies really skyrocketed. Then I came across Cloverfield, which led me to taking interest in giant monster movies, which led me to the old orange monster books. I don't know if anybody remembers these. I used to get these at the library all the time, and they would be like, this is a breakdown of every movie that Godzilla has appeared in. But they were horribly out of date and probably didn't even have correct information in them. But anyway, that led me to discovering people on YouTube who reviewed movies, and that brought me to the realization that I wanted to make movies. So, in a weird way, I guess you could say Cloverfield is responsible for all of this, for the M2J2 project itself. Anyway, until next time, smash that motherfucking like button, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment down below, and tell me what movies you want to see me review in the future. Until next time, Gucci.
Follow the light. The light is your guide.